Hi, loves, and welcome to the With Love Always podcast, a podcast to help you live the life you were created for. We are your hosts and your friends, Bree
and Marissa,
and we're so grateful you're here.
We pray you listen and leave feeling more inspired, encouraged, and uplifted.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. We are so grateful, as always, that you are tuning into the friendship today. For today's topic, we are talking all about confidence, baby. This was actually such a highly requested topic, and we are so excited to dive into the conversation around confidence. I think confidence is something that whether we feel like we have struggled with or we feel the stings of from time to time, truly is something that has touched every single one of our lives. And knowing through my journey of fighting my own insecurities and really just workshopping on my identity and who I am in order to arrive to a place where I'm so grateful that I do feel more confident now, I would love to just share and for us to just invite you guys into those conversations of what mindsets we really took on in order to become more confident people. And I think the beautiful thing about confidence is that it is steadfast. It is a beautiful thing, but that doesn't mean that we are ever absent of insecurity. And so, when we were thinking about our hearts and our intention with this episode, really, we were just keeping in mind anyone out there who is really in this moment feeling the stings of insecurity, whether you feel like it's something really big and it's kind of consuming your mind and consuming your life, or whether you feel like you're just struggling with insecurity from time to whatever degree you are feeling that, we just pray this conversation would be so life-giving and would give you that extra boost of confidence in any room that you walk into. So with all of that said, let's talk about how to be the most confident person in the room and 5 mindsets that we have taken on that have really helped sharpen, refine, and just improve our confidence. So as with truly so many things in our life, I think the foundation is always defining your metric. And so when we are talking about confidence, I think the world, social media, our society, our generation, we have so many false metrics of confidence. And I think it's no wonder why our generation especially, and I have seen myself fall into this so often, we feel like we are like on top of the world, so confident one day, but then we feel like we're falling beneath the weight of insecurity the next day. And I think it's truly because subconsciously we are being fed all of these lies of what we think that our confidence needs to be built on. And so we want to share with you guys just some examples that we have seen as false motives of confidence, because I have seen myself fall beneath this and I've seen myself really gravitate towards these things. And truly, when you are driven by these motives, like it's really just bound to disappoint you and it's bound to fail you. So with that said, these are some motives that we were just like thinking of when we were thinking about your metrics of confidence.
Yeah, so we just wanted to give some examples, kind of questions you can ask yourself. These are just kind of indicators, again, from personal experience of times we've built our confidence maybe on not the best metric. And so we just kind of want to help you guys identify them. So one of the first ones is just, do you want to be the prettiest person in the room? Are you focused so much on what your appearance can bring to the room? I think that's a huge one, especially as women.
Yeah.
Do you want to fit in? So being friends with a certain group of people or getting the approval of everyone? Do you want to be liked? Just, I think always kind of searching for that like social validation and being somebody who feels like they fit in and they're wanted and desired and invited. Do you want to be someone who's known by their accomplishments and what they're able to achieve? Are you seeking to earn certain connections in the room, kind of work your way up? Do you want to win the approval of a certain type of person?
But yeah, gosh, those are honestly all such good questions to ask, because truly, like, I think about the times that I have felt the most insecure. It's because I'm walking into the room and those are my motives. Like,
yeah,
I think about, and this is so, I think, normal as women. Like, there's times when, you're like getting ready to go somewhere and like you put on an outfit and nothing is vibing,
the worst.
It's like, and you literally are leaving the house and you're like, I don't feel pretty. Like, and that's such a normal thing. I think that's a universal experience for men and women. But then you show up to the room and then you see a girl who's their outfit slayed, and suddenly your confidence evaporated Why? Because your metric and your sense of self was defined by how you look in that moment. And that is guaranteed 10 out of 10 going to fail you. If you're walking into a room and you are so desiring to be the most accomplished person in the room, whatever it may be, to whatever accomplishment you desire in that moment, when you walk into a room and you meet someone who is even more accomplished than you, your confidence evaporated once again. Why? Because that is what you are defining your worth according to. I even think about the question mark of like, is your sense of confidence your desire to be noticed? Whether, I think like even in dating or in my singleness, like if I walk into a room or if I walk into an evening out with my friends and my metric of success that night is how often a man notices me or how often I'm being asked out or I'm turning heads, whatever it is, oh my gosh, if that does not go according to plan and according to the metric that I have identified for my confidence that night, I will literally feel defeated by that metric. And even in the same breath, it's like, if that is your metric and you walk into the room and you do feel like you are the prettiest person or the most noticed person or the most accomplished person, that is such a false like breath of confidence. And it's literally as quickly as it's like built up, it's going to shatter just as quick. And so we want to really encourage you guys, like, even ask yourself and be present and almost like self-aware in moments that you actually are finding yourself feeling the most insecure, whether it's in a room or in a moment or whether it's by yourself. Like, ask yourself the question, well, why am I feeling insecure? Is it a physical insecurity? Okay, if it's a physical insecurity, what's the source of that? Because I feel like this physical insecurity exists, do I feel like I won't get noticed? I won't be pretty. I won't be this. Like, really break it down in your mind, because I think when we are able to identify the root lie that is causing us to feel insecure, it's only then that we can actually take that lie and turn it to truth and build it up to be the very thing that produces confidence in us. And I think that's the conversations that we don't really hear around confidence. Like, I think we hear more so of like, oh, love yourself and like, you're the main character and this is that, but it's so much deeper. Like, it's truly like the deepest heartaches of our heart. And like I said, I think with the world always telling us like what makes us confident is all of these things: followers, fame, beauty, wealth, whatever it is. It's like, it's no wonder we're so confused as to why we don't feel confident all the time. And I actually wanted to, in that breath, like I wanted to share even with you guys, like when I first moved to LA, I really struggled, actually the hardest. I think I've seen myself struggle with insecurity in so many years of my life. Like, growing up, I was actually a very, very insecure little girl. It actually breaks my heart to think about. Like, when I think about when I was like in middle school and high school, I was the most insecure person, and college. It was like actually a lot of my life. Like, I was so deeply, deeply insecure. But I feel like around college age, like I really started to really invest myself. Honestly, it was like God. He really just like changed my heart and changed my perspective on myself. And I feel like God really restored my sense of identity and actually showed me my sense of identity and showed me what true confidence looked like that was steadfast. But all that's to say is, like, when I moved to LA, I almost started feeling like the stings of that deep insecurity that I have not felt in my life since I was like in high school and college. And I remember being literally so confused. I was like, what is happening to me right now? And I had to ask myself the same questions that I'm encouraging you guys to ask yourself. What is my metric of confidence right now? I realized for me, coming to LA, there was a little bit of that like culture shock, I guess you could say, of there is, truthfully, like a lot of focus on self around here. There's a lot of focus on influencer culture, celebrity culture, designer, wealth, fame, success, this is that. Like, who do you know in a room? And even though nobody in particular was actively like making me feel that way, I think the spirit in which LA is kind of like focused around was starting to get to me. And I started seeing myself walking into rooms and thinking, to be so transparent, like I felt like I was I hate even saying this because it sounds so silly, but like I would feel like I was like the ugliest person in the room, the least accomplished person. I would feel just like a nobody. And I think because I was carrying myself with that presence, honestly, it probably showed. Like, I feel like I was like very quiet. I was very dim. Like my spirit was not thriving. And it was really such a discouraging first couple months for me because I was like, am I ever going to be able to shake this feeling of insecurity? And thankfully, like from that place and from that being a part of my story, like God showed me and revealed to me that it's actually the fact that I was able to overcome those things. And I was able to realize like those metrics were never meant to really instill confidence within me in the first place. Like I need to find metrics of confidence outside of those things. And the moment that I began to return back to that truth and began to return back to, hey, my confidence has nothing to do with these things, nothing to do what the people around me are measuring themselves according to. It's everything to do with what's inside me. That was the moment that I began to be restored again. And I remember, like inviting Marissa into those conversations within my head as well. And I think, it's almost like sometimes shocking too, because I remember sharing with you and you were so surprised that was something I was struggling with.
No, 100%. And I think it's because like, as long as I had known you, you were somebody who was so marked by confidence, like so sure of who they were, so sure of their identity. And it's such a like tangible presence that you can feel. And that's what's amazing about confident people. It's like something that carries over and allows you to be confident. And we'll touch on that a little bit. But I just remember being so surprised. And I think specifically, and remind me what you had said of, you were like, I just feel so different. Like you were almost made so aware of the ways in which you were so different. And I just remember affirming you and being like, yeah, you actually are so different. Like you don't offer the same things that people here offer. And that is like why God has called you to this city. And I'm like, that's what we need more of. And that's what I really want to just affirm in this conversation. If you're listening, like if you're feeling those stings and you're feeling insecure in any of those areas we mentioned, and maybe it's even an area we didn't even touch on, like that is actually so okay, because what we're trying to instill is just that your confidence can come from such a deeper place. Like you are one of a kind, and that is your beauty. That is your power. And like walking in that and embracing all the ways in which you actually don't fit in because you bring something so unique. Like I think when you can really press into it, and I think even like what you mentioned, sometimes it does take those moments of just surrendering, like, okay, it stings a little bit. Like, I don't feel like I look the way I want to, or I don't feel like I've achieved the things I thought I was going to by this age, or I don't feel like the smartest person in the room. I think that's so okay, because it's like, perfect. Let's start at ground zero and let's build up a confidence that is unshakable and that isn't going to, I think like with all of those things, beauty fades, intelligence fades, achievement goes to the side. Like all of those things aren't going to sustain somebody's confidence. So we really want an eternal confidence that's so rooted in who we are, that's unshakable based on circumstances, seasons, achievements. Like there's just so much more to it. And I think that's why this conversation is so powerful, and it connects so much to sense of identity and self. And it's such a thing to navigate. Like I think, like you even shared, I can relate in so many ways, like just feeling so shy and so timid as a kid, and like really just needing to understand and build up my confidence and like learn how to do that, because it didn't come natural to me by any means. And so I hope we can just kind of invite you into our journeys and the things we've seen that have really helped us not have to like earn or do like a quick fix to confidence, but like here's what actually has helped build us up to like truly press into who we were created to be.
Yes, I love that so much. And I feel like helped and healed in a way. Like I feel like that's like a word that just came to mind as you were speaking. It's like confidence, true steadfast confidence. Like it heals the parts of you that are broken, and it heals the parts of you that are trying to extend and assimilate to be like everyone else. And I love what you emphasized of like, I think true confidence can stand on its own, whereas I think false confidence is the attempt to always assimilate, like be like everyone else, look like everyone else, dress like everyone else, achieve like everyone else. But true confidence is when you are actually standing out and you are okay with it and you think it's a beautiful thing. And I remember when you encouraged me in that of like, Brie, like you are so different than people in LA. And I was feeling the friction of that. Like, I don't want to be different. Like I want to be like everybody else. Mm-hmm. And I think the more I began to press into the differences, whether it's the differences in my personality and the differences in the way I dress, the differences in X, Y, Z, I began to realize like, wow, like I love walking into a room and being so different and like catching people off guard in my differences and letting that be my source of confidence because I get to be one of a kind. Like, what a beautiful gift. You who is listening, like, do not fall under the impression that you have to be like everyone else in order to be confident. You don't have to look like her. You don't have to dress like her. You don't have to be like us. You don't have to like the things that the world is telling you to like. Like the fact that you are so unique is actually the most beautiful thing about you. Like, gosh, it's such a special thing. And so all that's to say, consider how you're defining your metric of confidence, because even that conversation within itself is such a huge part of this entire conversation. But I think with all of that said, I think the more that you press into that internal conversation with yourself, I really want, as you're identifying what makes you distinct, what makes you unique, what makes you truly one of a kind, it's truly being able to identify what you bring to the table. And what I mean by that is, even going back to the metrics of success, it's like, we all know what it feels like to walk into a room and see someone else and feel like, wow, they're so pretty, and you start admiring them. And that admiration can take two routes. It can lead to admiration that leads to celebration of this person, or it can be admiration that leads to insecurity of yourself. And so I think there's something that I cannot emphasize enough is the more that you know the distinct qualities of who you are, the beauty in what you bring to the table, the beauty of what you invite into a room that's unique, that's one of a kind, only then can we look at the beauty of someone else and not think that someone else's beauty is at the expense of your own, because both beauties can coexist. They're just different sources of beauty, different types of beauty. And I think that's such a hard lesson to learn, because I think like I said, when we're trying to measure ourselves against someone else, like we're always bound to face defeat. But when we are truly just embracing who we are, loving, nurturing who we are, and emphasizing that into any room we walk into, whether it's our humor, whether it's the way we can listen to others, whether it's the way we can authentically ask questions, whether it's our intelligence on a certain topic, whether it is anything about you that you love and you know that you are so gifted at. When you are able to highlight that and bring that forth into a room with confidence and with assuredness, that confidence of yourself is going to allow you to embrace the confident parts of other people, not the other way around. And I have had to learn that the hard way. And this is like also so silly, but this is also what the nature of insecurity does and produces for us. Like, I would consider myself a more bubbly person. I can be like more outspoken in a room. And I remember like in my most insecure points in my life, like when I would walk into a room and I would meet like another girl who was maybe also bubbly and also very outspoken and very friendly, I would like compare myself to her and think, well, she's bubbly too. I'm bubbly. So I guess I'm not. Like, I would just start comparing and I'd be like, she must be better than me, or she's a little bit more bubbly than me, or she can connect with people a little bit better than I can. And I would look at that quality and I would allow that to cause insecurity and defeat and suppression of myself in a room. And that was just such a defeating cycle. And I would see myself reproduce that cycle in so many different ways of when I would meet someone that was so similar to me, I would feel like, well, what's the purpose of me being in the room? Or sometimes it'd be the opposite. Sometimes I would meet people who are so different than me, and I would be like, wow, like I wish I had those qualities, or I wish I brought that to a room. But I think that's the thing is, it's like, just because you are similar to someone else doesn't mean you're a copy of someone else. And just because you are different from someone else, well, that's a beautiful thing, because you are one of a kind. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. You are uniquely designed. And so just because someone else has a quality that you carry doesn't mean that that takes away from your own. But I feel like that is something that only we can learn to embrace when we know and have pressed into and highlighted the skills, the talents, and just the purpose that we deliver in every single room that we walk into.
Yeah, that is so, so good. And that reminds me of, I think it's 1 Corinthians 12:12, and it talks about each of us have a distinct role that we play. Like we are all part of one body. So it's like somebody's the eyes, somebody's the hands. And when I was thinking about that analogy, I was like, I think that's what can be so challenging to confidence sometimes, is when we recognize that, yes, we're this unique person, but even kind of like the body, there are really crucial parts of the body that aren't actually seen. So a lot of times, like your eyes or your smile might catch attention. So there might be people that, are the most noticeable in a room, but yet there are like core body parts and organs that we can't function without them. Like they're so crucial, and they're often not always the most recognized or praised, but they play such an important role to truly keeping you alive. And I think that's kind of how it feels sometimes when we're like comparing ourselves to others. And I know, especially for me, if you're someone who feels like, okay, but I'm not the most like interesting person in the room, I'm not the one that like catches people's attention the most. Like if you're somebody who sits back a little bit, I think that analogy can be so beautiful, because you are still playing such a crucial role. I think some of the most powerful roles that we can play in our lives are the ones that aren't actually seen or so visible to other people. And I think I know Brie already kind of touched on this, but I think for me, what really transformed my sense of confidence was when I really just began to understand and root my identity in who God said I was. And so I just wanted to emphasize that for me, since that's something that's so eternal and it can't be taken away and it can't be compared to other people, I know that the more I pressed into that, that was just truly the thing that transformed me and gave me such a sense of assurance walking into a room, knowing that I have a unique role to play, not only in this room, but on this earth. And I think the more you walk with that, like you just begin to feel such a sense of freedom, and you start to recognize these sides of yourself that maybe you didn't love, but you're learning to love, and you see the ways in which they can serve others, and you see the beauty in how they are different, or maybe they're, not super outspoken, but they're these beautiful traits that you can embody. And so if you're someone who's, I think, is just struggling with that, I really just want to encourage you to press into prayer, to just pray and ask God to remind you of who He created you to be. And I think that just for me is something when I'm feeling insecurity or I'm struggling with confidence, I'll just sit there and I'll just say, God, I am just like, remind me of who I am. Remind me of why I'm here, what I was created for. And I think we all just need that reminder sometimes. And we need to, like, it doesn't always come easy certain days, but I know that when I really just sit there and let my spirit be filled, I just can walk into a room and truly just be someone who is able to give to others. And for me, that's what lights me up and just makes me feel so confident.
I love that. And I think, even with that, it's like, maybe it's even just sitting with yourself and like writing a little list of like, if you maybe feel like you don't know exactly what your purpose is, or you don't feel like you necessarily know what you're gifted at, like as we're trying to encourage you to bring that to a room, maybe it's just sitting with yourself and getting very like honest with yourself of like, I guarantee even in your most insecure moments, you know that there are certain things about yourself that you love. And when you can just recognize those things in yourself and you can make a list of like I said, I love the way that I listen to people, or I love the way that I serve people, though it may not be on perfect display, like someone who's really outspoken in a room or really bubbly in a room, like the value that you're bringing is so necessary. And I think the more that we can detach ourselves from these false metrics of confidence, the more that we can attach ourselves to those hidden still things within ourselves that we love and that we're so proud that we carry into this world, that is when our confidence will be more steadfast and not be changing. And so I love that so much. Another thing that I feel like in my life has really defined who I have experienced as a confident person and who I have become as I stepped into becoming a more confident person is I've really realized that confident people in a room make others feel confident, just as I believe that insecure people in a room make others feel insecure. And what I mean by that is I think we all know the feeling of insecurity like we've been discussing. And when you're just talking to someone and I don't know, whether it's their presence or whether it's their words or whether it's what they're bringing to our attention, something about the conversation or something about the topics is just leading to deep insecurity within yourself. Sometimes that insecurity is for us to take ownership of, but also in the same breath, like I think, at least speaking for myself, there is nothing that fills my heart up more than knowing that I can walk into a room and empower those around me to feel confident in who they are. Like, I literally live for those moments when I can either speak life over someone, or I can listen to someone, or I can be available and serve someone, or I can just notice someone to make them feel like they have the confidence, or they have my attention, or they have my focus, or they have my celebration, my recognition, my sympathy, my empathy, whatever it is that I can provide to truly build somebody up. In my eyes, that is the markings of a confident person, because only confident people are actively seeking to make others and to instill confidence within others. And I know that that's so true of myself because I wasn't always that person. Like, I was the person that, because I had such a false sense of confidence, I thought that my confidence could only stand on the grounds of building myself up. I wasn't thinking about building other people up, and I was certainly not ready to be a servant to build other people up because I was too preoccupied with trying to take a hold of this false sense of confidence that I couldn't even think about the other people in the room. But I think that's the beautiful thing is like the more that you step into really the security of who you are, the more that you are wanting to invite and extend and bring that confidence out in those around you. And truly, like, there is nothing that makes me feel more confident than also watching people around me be confident. Like, that fires me up in the best way possible. And it's kind of like one of those things, like, when they say, like, when you're kind to someone else, like, it actually is a reward for you. Or like when you spread joy, like, you receive joy. It's the same thing. It's like when you are giving other people the celebration, the devotion, the recognition of who they are, it affirms more so who you are. And so I think that's such a beautiful place to start too, of like, even if you're not feeling like the most confident person in the room, if you can love someone and meet someone else in their insecurity or in their need, I guarantee like the way you're able to fuel someone else is also going to fuel, restore, and heal your confidence.
That's so good. And that reminds me, I feel like a lot of times one reason we often feel insecure in is because we're not really feeling seen. And I think we all know what that feels like, to just be in a room and you're like, nobody sees me, or people see me, but they don't actually see me for who I truly am. They don't understand me. And I can totally relate to that feeling. And I think to this point exactly, like the one thing that I've kind of now learned to do is like, if I'm feeling that way, number one, somebody else is probably feeling that way. So I'm going to go seek out those people that are maybe overlooked. Maybe they're sitting by themselves, or maybe it's me being bold and just going up and assuming somebody's going to enjoy talking to me. And I'm just going to ask them questions. I'm going to figure out what their passions are. I'm just going to uplift and encourage them. And in the process, by, like you said, giving other people confidence, trying to build them up, I'm going to feel like I'm going to be built up because I'm going to feel like I have a purpose to be there. And I'm actually allowing other people to feel empowered, and that will then empower you. And so I think that's a really beautiful, not intuitive place to start, but I think it is a really powerful place to start, is just looking for those people that maybe are overlooked and just trying to be that person that's affirming. And sometimes those people, like, it might not always go super well. Like, I can think of times where I'm like, I feel like I'm just building up this person's ego and they're so in their own world. But it's like, at least it took me off myself for a second.
Yes.
And I could actually just like get outside of my head and put myself out there and try to get better at this skill. Because I feel like building up other people and making them feel seen is a skill, and it takes practice. And so I think that's just a really great place to start.
And that's such a good point. Like, I think that is actually what insecurity, that is what insecurity is. Like, insecurity, the presence of insecurity, is the self-obsession and self-focus on self.
Mm-hmm.
And we all have it. We all know the stings of that. Nobody is ever going to be absent of that in this lifetime. But the presence of confidence is actually the shift of like, you are no longer just thinking of yourself. You are actually thinking of those around you. You're not self-focused. You're not self-obsessed. You're not self-consumed. And because your attention is not on yourself, you are able to attend to those around you. And I think that's also such a different way to look at confidence that the world in our eyes has so backwards. Like, the world is defining confidence by the focus on yourself and don't get me wrong, there's things and ways you need to nurture yourself in order to build up your confidence in private and extend that in public. But it doesn't end here. It doesn't end at how you can be self-serving and self-loving and just the best version of yourself. Like, it's so far beyond that. And I think that's a beautiful thing that we pray that we're just inviting you guys into just a greater depth of what confidence can look like. Because I know for myself, the moments I've encountered people in my life who healed me in a room by making me feel seen, making me feel safe, making me feel sound, making me feel noticed, taking that experience from a confident person who loved me in an insecure moment has made me want to go out and be that confident person for other people. And so I think that's, like I said, the beautiful thing. Confidence produces confidence, not the other way around. And so I think with that said too, a true marking of a confident person and an invitation, a mindset that we really want to just encourage, inspire you guys to carry is that we believe that true confidence is also treating everyone in the room equally. And I feel like this is such a big one, and maybe it doesn't even sound like initially like it ties into your own inner self-confidence, but I feel like it really, really deeply does, because it returns back to your motives. It returns back to your metric of what you're defining confidence as. And I know for myself, like, the more that I've increased in confidence, the more that I haven't looked at the world, looked at others, looked at myself as just trying to gain for myself, or just trying to receive for myself, or trying to externally validate my looks, my appearance, my accomplishments, whatever it may be, the more that I began to see everyone on an equal playing field, because I'm no longer walking into a room looking at what I can gain. I'm looking at what I can give. I think that mindset shift can only occur when confidence is made present. And I think, like, we all know what it's like, especially living in LA. I always make jokes about LA, but it's truly our point of reference. But here, like, that is the reality. Is like, there are people who will walk into a room and they will try to have a conversation with you or someone else just because they're trying to gain something, or they're trying to receive something. They're trying to connect to something. They're trying to become somebody. And those things aren't inherently wrong. Like, I think those can be beautiful things, but we all know what it's like to feel like our sense of worth is only on the metric of the value that we can provide for somebody else, or only based on the metric of the value that, like, I don't know, like, is seen by the world. You know, suddenly, because somebody has X amount of followers on Instagram, suddenly they're worthy of being talked to. I don't love that, and I think, like I said, it's producing over and over and feeding this lie that our confidence should come from these things of the world. But what if our confidence just came from literally just who we were? And I think only when we can see ourselves from that standpoint, when I can see myself of, I am not confident because of these list of things. I'm confident because I know who I am and I love the design of who I am. Only then can I love people from that standpoint. And only then do I no longer have people on different levels. I like truly see everyone on an equal playing field, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. I feel like I just want to like re-emphasize that when you remove the external and you start actually just focusing on people's character, but also just realizing like we're all human beings. We all have the same intrinsic worth.
Yes.
So it's like, why are we measuring or placing? I think we can get so fixated on earning like a specific person's approval in the room that we miss out on all these other opportunities. And I think when you can just show up and truly, that is like the ultimate depiction of confidence, where like, it doesn't matter who you're talking to, you carry yourself, you listen to them, you present yourself in the same way. I think that is so, so powerful. And honestly, it kind of just reminds me of our like Grow in Love episode of like those, when you do that, not only does it transform your heart, but it transforms other people's hearts to see like, person, like the way they uplift me is just so beautiful. The way they dig in to look at who I actually am as a human being is so, so beautiful.
I feel like you said that so beautifully. And it honestly like reminds me of when I worked my first corporate job. There was like such a running joke. So when I like graduated college, I worked a corporate job and I would go into the office every day, and I was always joked about as being the only person who is brave enough to talk to the CEO every single day.
I love that.
I would literally like talk to him in the kitchen, or I'd like go say hi at his office. I would have coworkers who were like so far above me according to an employee standpoint, like directors who were literally like 10, 15 years older than me. And they would joke and they'd be like, Brie, how do you talk to the CEO every day? Like, aren't you terrified? And I was like, no, like he is just a human being. Like I'm in awe of, the celebration of who he is and the distinction of his role in this company. I'm very aware that that is a very powerful position he plays, but at the end of the day, we're just two people making coffee in the same kitchen. At the end of the day, we're sharing the same workspace. At the end of the day, he's a human being. And at the end of the day, even though I was very young at the time, I'm thankful that I had that mindset, because like we've been saying, it's like I wasn't measuring my worth according to who I was in the company or where I ranked in the company or what I perceived as giving me authority to speak to the CEO. I was looking at him as a human being. And just as I acknowledged him as a human being, I would acknowledge absolutely anybody within that company. I would acknowledge the people that I would see, cleaning and helping us and supporting us in the bathroom, or like the janitors, or like the baristas, or anybody. Like nobody had a level to them in my mind, because in my confidence didn't come earned in levels. Like it was steadfast. So that therefore I was able to look at everyone in a room as the same steadfastness. And I think honestly, that's such a beautiful example, because like I said, confidence also doesn't come with age. It doesn't come with title. It doesn't come with position. It doesn't come with authority. It comes within yourself. And like anyone could have looked at 22-year-old Brie, disqualified me because I was an intern. I had just graduated college. I just moved to the city. I was literally the lowest rank in the company, but I didn't allow that to disqualify myself from building a relationship with someone who to other people would have been terrified of. But to me, I was like, you're worth being recognized because of who God created you to be. Like, it's really that simple.
So good.
So the last thing that we just want to really encourage as we kind of tie up this conversation on confidence is that we want to just remind you that you will never have to prove yourself as a confident person, because we believe that true confidence really does speak for itself. I think so often, especially when we are trying to build our worth on false senses of confidence, what false confidence does is it tries to prove itself. It tries to explain itself. It tries to speak for itself. It tries to make a list externally of all the reasons why we should be recognized. But I think true confidence, when you encounter someone who's really deeply confident, they could be the longest list of achievements in the world, but they're not speaking on those things because true confidence doesn't need to be spoken of. True confidence is truly felt in someone's presence. And I think even returning back to like what we were sharing earlier, true confidence is like that feeling of like when you feel safe within someone's presence because they are safe within their own presence. Like that is the presence that I know I want to deliver into a room. I don't want to walk into a room and feel like I ever need to speak on behalf of why you should think I'm confident. I want you to feel it through the way that I'm loving you. And I think that even ties into the conversation of like validation. I think especially with social media, we are living in a day and age where we are told our confidence is directly tied to our external validation, whether it's through followers, whether it's through likes, whether it's through photos. Like there's so many different ways that we are all subconsciously seeking validation. And I think that's where we need to get really honest with ourselves, because I think true confidence isn't actively seeking to be validated. It's truly just in the stillness like of your presence and of the inner knowing that you have already validated yourself. I'm already validated by God. And so therefore, receiving validation is such a gift and such a blessing, but I don't need it. And it's not necessary for me to walk into a room and for me to feel confident.
That's so good. And that actually, when you were speaking, it just reminded me, and I was trying to think of those moments where I'm like, when do I feel the most confident? And I really think it is like when I'm by myself. And I know it like might sound cheesy, but I'm like, I just know like there's a God who knows me so well and like created me for the exact purpose. Like literally me just eating my lunch and just existing, like he's pleased with me. And I'm like, I don't know, I just do feel so confident in that. And I think that's so beautiful. Like, I think that really is the key to confidence, is like feeling it in just the moments when you have nothing to offer, when you're not doing anything, when you're not looking cute, when you're just by yourself at your home and you just have confidence because you know you have a reason to exist and to be here. And I think that just is such a beautiful thing. And I think like with that, when we're even thinking of insecurity and things like that, I think there are going to be so many people who, even when you walk into a room and you feel confident, I've even felt it recently. Like I sometimes feel like people can almost feel threatened by that. And they almost, in a way, like want to sometimes dim people's lights a little bit. Like not healthy people, but like some people will do that. So I think it's like, you just need those moments of like true inner confidence, knowing that whatever people project, whether it's good and they're trying to lift you up or they're trying to tear you down because they're threatened by you, like you're just unshakable because you're just standing firm in that. And yeah, I think that's such a great example. I think so often we do that with social media where we're like, kind of almost trying to, even in the private moments, like share them and earn approval. But I just think that's such a slippery slope. And I just encourage us all to kind of just strip it back and be like, when I am just by myself existing, am I confident of who I am? Like, am I proud of myself? And I think that is such a foundation to truly like root your confidence in.
I think that's so powerful, because truly who we are in private is who we're going to be in public. And I love what you said of like, there's no greater feeling also for myself of like the giddiness of when I am by myself and I have nothing to offer, nothing to give to this world, but I feel the feelings of joy and the presence of love through God in my life. And I know like I'm literally living my life doing nothing important, and I am loved. oh my gosh, like it is just a feeling that cannot even be articulated into words. And when you can walk into a room with that deep sense of, I am so loved, just existing with every breath I take, every inhale through my lungs, I'm literally so loved. That being the source of your confidence, nothing can take that from you. Like that is so unshakable, because it wasn't, I didn't receive that because I earned it. Like I received it because I just existed. And it's like when you can walk in that steadfastness, like it is something so special. And so, yeah, we just want to really encourage to just, even with validation, like if you see yourself, like whether it's posting on social media for validation or wearing a certain outfit for validation or buying, that's actually a whole conversation within itself, like overbuying things because you want to fit in and like have the nice things that other people have for validation. Whatever source or stronghold of validation that you find yourself falling into, we really encourage you to be so aware and wary of that as you kind of approach your own inner dialogue of confidence, because whatever you are seeking validation in is really just exposing where you internally do not independently have your own sense of confidence, because that is what confidence is. Like confidence is the inward validation that you have already received, the validation that you've received from God, that you don't need the world to tell you who you are. You're not posting on social media because you need people to tell you that you're pretty. You're not posting something fun you did because you need to prove that your life is cool. You're doing whatever it is, fill in the blank for yourself, because you genuinely enjoy it. But nobody can tell you who you are or who you are not, because you've already internally affirmed that in yourself. And so with all that said, we pray that this conversation on confidence would really just encourage and inspire you guys, maybe to even think about confidence from such a different lens. Like I said, I feel like the ways that we're so passionate about confidence may be so different than the language and the conversations around confidence that you've heard before. And we pray that it would just allow you to consider confidence so much more deeper than maybe you ever have considered before. Because ultimately, with our friendship here, like we are so passionate about your hearts. And if there's anything that we hope and pray you would receive from today's episode, is that we deeply desire for you to feel confident in who you were created to be, because you are so special and you were so fearfully and wonderfully made, and you have such a distinct role to play on this earth. And there's nothing more than what we desire for you to be able to walk into a room with your head held high, and for insecurity and those lies to just fall to the wayside, to the confidence we believe you are capable of carrying. So thank you guys so much for tuning in today, and we love you guys. And if there's any way that this episode has impacted you today, please share with us, because there's nothing that fills our hearts up more than knowing that our friendship was just beautifully received.
Okay, so for this week's Love Notes, we actually didn't really have anything planned. So we just wanted to do a little podcast housekeeping. That's what I'm going to call it.
Wait, that's so cute.
And we have so many different platforms. I know we're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and then YouTube. So let us know wherever you listen. And honestly, the thing that's most helpful for us is if you guys can leave a review. So if you're on Spotify or Apple, you can just do like a rating. You don't even have to write anything if you don't want to, but just give us a rating. And if you wouldn't mind sharing it with a friend, I know so many people say they hear about our podcast through word of mouth, which is just so sweet. I think that's like such a like thoughtful thing too. When people like send me podcasts, it's like my favorite thing. So maybe you can just send it to a friend that you're thinking of, and that really helps us so much.
Yes, we would love that so deeply. And also we would love for you guys to follow along with us at With Love Always podcast on Instagram. Once again, I feel like that is just such a beautiful way to engage with our friendship beyond just listening to an episode. And we always try to share more snippets of the episode over on that Instagram page. And so even if you don't choose to listen to a whole episode, I mean, if you're at the end of this, you are, but you can find little glimpses of encouragement all sprinkled out throughout that Instagram. And yeah, we really are just so passionate about extending our friendship, and like we love you guys so tremendously, and just the thought of inviting more people into this friendship like literally fills us up with so much joy and purpose. So we would just so appreciate to see your face and your heart over there as well.
That is the conclusion of this episode. We love you guys so much, and we are so excited to see you in our next one. Bye. Thank you so much for listening. We pray this episode was encouraging and life-giving. If you found it valuable, please share it with a friend, leave a review, and subscribe.
And be sure to follow us along over on Instagram at With Love Always Podcast. Signing off with all of our love always, Bree
And Marissa.